If you're thinking about setting up goals for your ADHD, stop what you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you has made a big game change for my life, especially for my ADHD. And it all comes from this book, Atomic Habits. If you haven't read this book, I highly, highly recommend it. I'm gonna talk about the principles that I learned from that book and that made a big change for not only for me, but for a lot of my patients and clients. So why setting up goals is maybe not the best option, especially for people who have ADHD and even for neurotypical people. Because when it comes to setting goals, guess what? We don't end up achieving those goals because it's a big goal, but there's no steps in place to actually achieve the goal. And what you should be focusing on is building the right routines, systems, and habits in place that will help you achieve of what you want, of the results you want, the transformation you want in life. By just setting a goal, that's great, but it's not enough to help you achieve that. So what you should be really focusing on is how can you create small habits that can have this compounding effect to help you achieve what you really want in life. So instead of setting up goals for our ADHD and instead actually setting up habits, systems, and routines in place, why that's more effective is because it's what we call the compounding effect. If we just improve just 1% every day, over time, that can be grand because it's doing those things 1% better every single day. So for example, if you have a hard time showing up on time and you're always 5 minutes late, if you just focused on the next day that you're only 4 minutes late, so it's 1% better instead of being 5 minutes late. And then so on and so on, and eventually you do show up on time, and then guess what? You end up showing up 10 minutes early. But if you just focus on just the 1% improvement, over time that compounds to something grand. So you have to understand that this compounding effect is really powerful and you have to be patient with it. That being more consistent in building systems and routines in place and improving by 1% is going to get you further along in life than trying to set up big goals that you're never going to accomplish. By establishing these little habits, it's something that's more remarkable because it has that buildup of all these small little habits that you're actually building that are good habits that actually implement into what you want to achieve, the transformation that you want in your life. So if you focus more on the habits versus just setting the big goal, you will achieve far greater than just setting up goals. Now, the most effective way to changing your habits is focusing on who you want to become and not focusing on what you want to achieve. Let me explain. If you focus on, for example, I want to be healthy, and that's your goal, you want to lose 10, 20 pounds, instead of focusing on the achievement of losing 10, 20 pounds, focus on who is someone that is healthy. Instead, focus on, I am going to be a healthy person. That's just going to be a life change. And I'm going to change that habit about myself. And you keep telling yourself, I am a healthy person. So whenever you do behaviors of like, would a healthy person do this? Would a pro athlete eat this? Would a pro athlete do this type of behavior? When you keep on doing that and telling yourself over time, you will change those behaviors and actually have the achievement. So by focusing on who you want to be, so if you want to be that person that has that optimal mind and a high performance, then focus on that type of person instead of trying to focus on the achievement. So another way I can explain this is, okay, you want to have that optimal mind. You want to have high peak performance. And that's the type of person you want to be. Well, a good way to explain this is through a pyramid of destiny. And so your destiny is to be that optimal person, that optimal mind, and have high performance and a quality of life. That is who you want, okay? That is your destiny. It all starts with the very low tier of associations. Who do you associate with? Are you hanging around people that are pessimistic? Are you hanging around people that aren't high achievers? Are you hanging around people that are just losers? If that's the case, you need to change your behavior of changing your association. It also comes down to the things you read. Are you reading about health? Are you reading about high performance? Are you also listening and watching things that help motivate you and give you ideas to be able to want to be a high performer? If you're not, then you need to change your behavior because the behavior of the association leads into our thoughts. Those are what are going to accumulate those thoughts and those ideas, and those thoughts will lead into action. So if we're consistently doing the action because we're consuming the right association, then that'll lead into our character, who we actually become, and that character leads into our destiny of being that high performer, healthy person that we want so much. So by focusing, see how important it is building these systems and associations. It's all about who you want to become and not necessarily the achievement, because if you focus on that, then you will get the achievement that you do want. Another important thing, if you really want to become the best version of yourself, you have to consistently be editing your belief system. And you have to understand, if you're not at where you want to be, of being this high performer, the best version of yourself, obviously what you're doing right now and your beliefs and your mindset is holding you back. And so you have to be continuously learning and being patient and changing those habits and behaviors over time, because if you do focus on that, you will achieve this. But you got to focus on this versus just setting up goals. Setting up goals for your ADHD is not going to get you there, but changing your habits and your behaviors and putting good systems and routines that are going to work for you is going to help you achieve that far greater than any goal setting can get you. And if you really want to be able to make a transformation for your ADHD, then you should subscribe, hit the subscribe button, the bell notifications, so you don't miss out on any other future ADHD health tips and tricks that I do give weekly. Another great tip that Atomic Habits actually gives is about how can you actually make habits actually become a habit. And they talk about habit stacking. So what habit stacking is for example, if you brush your teeth every morning and night, that's something you just subconsciously do every day. You don't have to really even think about it anymore. And you're doing that consistently and you're having a hard time, for example, maybe taking your medications or taking your supplements that you want for helping with your ADHD. Whatever it is, you can actually pair it with a habit that you already do. So if you put your medications or your supplement bottles next to your toothbrush, every time you go for your toothbrush, you're going to have the habit of taking your supplements before you brush your teeth. Then you have that morning and night because you do that already morning and night when you're brushing your teeth. That is what is habit stacking. And you can do this for any kind of habit. You just pair it with something that you already do and then pair it with a good habit that you want to become long-term and becomes habit naturally. And that's what you can do for pairing stacking and can be really, really effective. And I found this really effective for not only for me, but also for a lot of my patients and clients. Now, what do you do if you have bad habits and how to get rid of bad habits? The thing we have to do first is identify what cues it. What cues that bad behavior? So maybe that bad behavior is maybe going into a spiral anxiety, depression, and because something triggers that where we're binge watching on Netflix, we play tons of video games, whatever it might be that causes a bad behavior, we need to understand what actually triggers it. If we can identify what triggers it, then we can actually avoid that trigger. But what's even gonna be far greater, instead of trying to just avoid it, is to reduce the exposure to that cue. So let's just take an example. Maybe one of your goals is to procrastinate less. So what you need to do is identify what causes you to procrastinate. Is it a particular distraction that happens all the time, or is it several different distractions that cause you to procrastinate? Because most procrastination does come down to definitely distractions. So if that distraction might be your cell phone, if you can identify it's maybe social media that causes that, how can you reduce the exposure to that? Well, things like setting your phone up to focus mode. I've talked about that in a lot of my videos, or maybe just getting rid of your phone altogether, put it in a completely different room, put it on airplane mode. Whatever you got to do is to reduce that exposure. And by doing that, we'll change the behavior. And so over time, you can get rid of that bad habit of procrastination because you identified what cued it in the first place. So this is something you just kind of take time by looking at what you can do over and over again of what is actually the cue of the bad behavior and how can you eliminate the exposure to it. And this will help you eliminate the bad behaviors to replace it with good behavior. And if you really want to change your behavior about ADHD and want to transform your ADHD, then you should watch this video next of how you can actually improve your ADHD. Watch this video next. I'll see you in the inside.